So, welcome to Wednesday's session of this Athena Soft Skills Academy and Athena Blended Intensive Program lecture. As you know, we have lectures on Monday and on Wednesdays. Those that you cannot make it, in one of the sessions, please log into the Moodle platform and follow them and do the quizzes. If there are any issues regarding the quizzes, I will solve them. As I told you, each lecturer has to upload the lecture sessions, the lecture transparencies, and also to generate a quiz. But before I will give to the floor to Susan Galliano, that I'm pretty sure that you will enjoy her lecture, let me ask you something. I will ask you the following. I would like to split you into teams, in the breakout teams. I'm going to do it randomly. I mean, if you have someone that he's a professor within your team, the professor, he can stay, can participate in the activity. That is not going to happen right now, but I would like to provide, this opportunity for you to collaborate offline. And let's say, like after Easter, after, the Eastern vacations, when we are going to meet again, I think at the beginning of May, I would like the groups of people that participate in this activity to make presentations, or whoever is going to participate and come to Hanya, to Crete, with his or her team, or his team, will make the presentation. So the topic that I would like to have your opinion, I was right now in this national meeting of rectors of the Greek universities, and there was a very big panel about ChatGPT. So listening, the old guys to speak about ChatGPT and, the panic that the universities, not panic, there were some American universities right now. It was a representative from the University of Chicago that they know they have a plan. But however, I would like to know your opinion. So I would like, these teams, within the period of time, no questions right now. No questions right now. After, I will finish, George. I would like you to meet in the breakout rooms. I will try to make teams of 5. You are going to work only offline. You are going to make your plan however do you want. And I would like to discuss, and please keep a note about the opportunities of the ChatGPT to students and to the universities. First one, what are the challenges that you should face in order to use the ChatGPT, and what are the challenges that you think that the universities are facing if the students or if the professors are using the ChatGPT, and what are the solutions do you suggest in order the humans' power skills to collaborate with ChatGPT, because it's a technology that we should learn how to use. We cannot avoid. Now we have the ChatGPT 4.0, and until probably you are going to finish your essay, your work, working together, probably we're going to have something that is incredibly capable. So what are the challenges of GPT? What are the opportunities of ChatGPT? And what kind of solutions do you propose in order to learn how to use ChatGPT? All right. So do you remember the thing? Okay, let me, first,
what it's mean, ChatGPT? I don't understand this word. Yes, what it's mean?
ChatGPT, I'm sorry, I have someone, Jonathan, ChatGPT, from the few things that I know, I have checked it, a few times. It's like an artificial intelligent automated machine that provides innovative, innovative, it's a free of copyright issues, answers to whatever you are going to ask, and they generate text. So today they presented the following. I was surprised. Can you please mute your microphone? This is very easy. If you don't know, I can help you. Okay, let me find, who is this person. All right. ChatGPT, they just announced to us that they received an undergraduate bachelor degree from Harvard in law. So they were a question. They have, ChatGPT right now have a bachelor degree from a Harvard law department in Harvard. Not with a great grade and performance, but this has been achieved. So the universities, now they are checking, for solutions or how to collaborate, because it's going to be a part of the educational activity in few months. I will say next year we should use it. It's like Google. So I would like from your side as a student to work together offline. And, at the beginning of May, when we are going to meet online, where I'm going to organize a round table only for this activity. And I'm going to invite, people from all over the world in order to listen to you as a students. What are the opportunities of ChatGPT from the student's point of view? What are the challenges as a professional later on? Because probably ChatGPT is going to replace some positions in jobs. Okay, can you? Okay, I'm going to remove this Dacon Hereford. Okay, I have to remove him. Okay. All right. So I would like, for you, I'm going to split you if Susan can give me this time, for 5 minutes. I'm going to break out your rooms. You should introduce yourself to your teammates. You should plan, when are you going to meet within 5 minutes in order to, as a teams, each team to present, about ChatGPT and student life or ChatGPT and employer. It's up to you. This is soft skills. You are going to discuss, collaborate, decide, present this topic. Okay, let's check. So I'm going to split you for 5 minutes in breakout rooms. Okay, so you should speak each other. So let me. How many we are? 32 with me or with Susan 30. Let's say 6 teams.
Maybe could I be excused or?
Are going to be excluded, yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
me too, Kostas.
Okay, you are going to go out from the room, all right? Even though, I would like to leave students to do this by themselves, okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
I'm opening all the rooms. And try
Okay.
to join the room that I have sent you. If you are a professor, probably you can skip this, So
Yes.
you're not going to you are not going to join the room, but you are going to have 5 minutes. The students that they are going to stay with us, this means that they are not in the computer. They are somewhere else. For the students that they are going to join us on Monday session, I will have something else, as a team group. Okay, let's give them some time. All right, I think all of them, they are. No, of course, you see. Well, I like that I recognize, the Greek names. So, okay, so Theodora.
Μπαίνουμε σε δωμάτιο, Κώστα.
Yeah, no, Yorgos, you are a professor, but if you would like to join, please
There's no problem.
feel free. George
Okay,
Kalakis
thanks.
is a colleague of mine from Sitia, Department of Sitia. Sitia is a very beautiful city
Thanks.
in Crete that we're going to have our international week in September.
Yes, you are welcome.
No, I have decided. It does not depend.
For the others.
So Theodora Gunela, I mean, it seems that you are not there, you are somewhere else. I have to remove you, no?
Συγγνώμη, είχα ένα θέμα με το ίντερνετ και με πέταξε.
Okay, so join, the group. So let me find you. Where are you? I will assign you. Wait to room 5. Okay?
Okay.
Bye. So I will broadcast to them that they have 5 minutes. Thank you, Susan, for the time.
Oh, it's not a problem. It's very useful. That way they can already start thinking
Yeah, I mean,
together.
they should start to speak and engage and learn each other and get introduced.
It's true. Mhm.
Kostas, can I ask you a question in the meantime?
No, you should wait for me to write, the message. Yes, of course.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jag fått ett bra medalj. Okej.
just a moment to. Okay. All right, I just send it. Okay, Samia, the floor is yours. Thank you. Who are you?
Yeah, thank you.
Just a moment. Who is this Joey?
Joey Randolph.
This is the boy, no?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man. Remove it. Samia, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I have 15 students registered to the course, and my question is this. They have to,
Just,
What?
just a moment. Are they all of them, here? Because I cannot see, 15.
no, William is one. I saw William,
yeah.
but I see more of them on Monday.
On Monday, I will place another essay. Don't worry.
Okay, so they need to complete the quizzes that follows each session.
Okay, this
My
is-
question is if the quiz is not a multiple choice quiz, then who's going to grade these quizzes? Me?
no, the professor, the responsible professor.
Ah, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Costas, may I interrupt? Sorry, I
Even
jumped into a room.
though, Zamia, I have asked from all the professors to place a multi-choice question in order to make them life, easier. If they are not going to do it, they have to do the extra work.
Yeah, and I want to say something following my experience on Monday that I joined my students in the breakout room.
Yeah.
Since the students don't know each other, and you put the students from different countries in one breakout room, so it took them time to introduce themselves to each other, talk about where they come from, what languages they speak, and then they started with the task. So till they got to the task, they didn't have time to complete whatever you asked them to do,
Mhm.
like the other professor asked them to do. So that one was something that I wanted to
Give
say.
them more time. That's why we are going to use more the breakout rooms. That's why what we are doing right now. That's why I have placed, this essay for them to work offline until in May, so they can meet offline in order to introduce and collaborate. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
although I didn't attend the whole session on Monday, I had a similar comment because I got feedback from Maria, and well, her perspective is exactly as the colleague has just said. So, and it took a little bit longer than expected, of course.
But
They
Maria,
need to know each other. So it's good that yep.
But Maria has set up, the time that gave to the students. So it was her that he has set
No,
up.
it was Agnieszka. It was Agnieszka that set up the time.
Okay.
So my student said the same thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly my student's comment on Monday's session.
All right. So let
Yeah,
the
because
students
of
first of all to engage to the class. We are going to give them more time, but this depends on the lecturer. It does not depend on me.
Yeah, of course, that's it. No, and sometimes we also have a perspective, and then when we put it at work with the students, it comes out differently. So it's
Oh, absolutely.
We have so many
so it's
that
yeah, of course, no.
The
So
breakout,
they-
there's never enough time in the breakout rooms. I find.
No,
Never.
no.
It's just because it's a different kind of communication. We're missing a lot of the nonverbals, and then it's more hesitant, and one person starts and then they talk over each other, and then they say, no, you go ahead. It's just totally different.
Yeah. And I
But-
got in on purpose in room 4. It appeared automatically. So I got in on purpose just to check up if they had understood what you had asked, Costas.
I have not asked anything myself. Maria has asked, and the other one, not me.
No, it's not that. Now, in this moment.
I said,
Now
no, you are wrong, because I broadcast to them what they have to do.
Yeah, I know, but I got out before.
Yeah,
And they
go
don't
with them.
understand immediately.
Yeah,
No,
because
I
you were
didn't.
late. So who is this 8J? I don't know who is this guy. I'm afraid now to accept people that I cannot see their name.
Yeah, probably you should,
I will ask them to rename.
I don't know. Yeah, always rename with the main institution.
Yeah, I don't know. How can I do this, Anna?
just to ask
Okay.
now in the meeting it will be in the chat, but send an email to everybody that is actually enrolled.
This is a good idea. When I'm sending the reminder. So who is NIHJ? November India Hotel Golf? No reply. Okay, remove.
No idea.
Yeah, because the last time, I remember last we had a co-election, and some strange people they try to draw some, I cannot.
Costas, you use all the time the same link. It is your personal link on Zoom. So this is famous.
The username and the password changed. You can see only this, but
We don't use passwords because you give us the link directly. You have to use other links, not your personal link.
But this is my Zoom. The department does not have a Zoom.
Yes, it is okay, but you have the opportunity to create another link each time for each connection.
Create a new meeting.
A fresh one.
Create a,
You know how
Yeah.
many how many of these meetings I'm organizing? Every day one. So
It's okay. For every day, there is a different link that you emit to everyone instead of
yeah, but it's
giving
very
the same link all the time,
time-consuming.
which is your personal link.
okay, I will do it.
Put that on your list, Costas.
Yeah.
Well, and once we are here, I have a comment. You know that the two of the Portuguese students are siblings, a girl and a boy. And so they have exactly the same username and the same password. What happened is that when Katarina gets in, she does the quizzes, for example, and then João gets in and he has the quizzes already done. But I was checking yesterday and they have different, how can I say, they are both enrolled, but as they didn't change the password, they were getting always in the same environment. I've asked them to try Katarina. I've asked Katarina to change, so the girl, to change her password when she gets in next time and check if this splits there, because they have exactly the same surname, so the same password was created.
Anna, why they don't send me one of them, to any
I did that.
any mail?
I did that.
You did that when?
I did that, yes.
Yesterday?
I believe it was last week. It was
Last week. I will find it again, and then I will rename them. I will place them, a number next to the surname, so they have a different username and password.
okay.
I will find this email. If you have sent it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was checking that yesterday, and their names are there both differently. So with different accounts, Katarina has logged in several times, and João appears as he has never got into Moodle. And I believe that sometimes it's the other way around, that he's more active than her on the work.
Okay,
But
let me give 1 minute to the people to get out of the room.
yeah.
All right, because they have enough time now.
Mm-hmm.
And also on Monday, I will prepare something else for the people that they are not in this exercise. So how much time do you think that this will have in the breakout room?
5 minutes always seems to be a bit too little. So, I mean, I would say, depending on the task, if they, 10 minutes is always a good idea, I think, as a minimum, but I could be wrong.
I think each one should get 2 minutes, a minimum of 2 minutes.
So
It
if
depends
there
on the
are
number.
5, 10, yeah?
Yeah, each student should
Yeah.
get 2 minutes to speak.
Yes,
Correct.
at least, yes. Mm-hmm.
So let's.
Hello?
Okay, so
Hello?
Hello.
You can hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Yes, very good.
Costas, you tell me what time you think is the best. I know it goes until 7. I'm not sure what is the
7 CET. You have 1 hour and 30 minutes.
okay.
I don't know who is this Floyd J. Mickinson. Have no idea. Who is Floyd? From which university are you coming from? From which university are you coming from? Floyd?
Hello?
From which university are you coming from?
Athena, European University.
Yeah, no, Athena. From which university of Athena?
Huh?
From which university of Athena are you coming from?
The one that the big one, the main one.
All right, all right. Okay, so we can start, Susan?
Yes, we can start. Okay. Shall I?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to see that there are so many of us here today to talk about a topic that is something that involves every aspect of our lives. I am coming from a background of professional counseling, and I also work as doing some consulting, and I work as a teacher trainer in Erasmus projects. And this is a topic that comes up over and over again. It comes up with my individual clients and talking about their personal relationships. Some people that I work with that are working in different firms, in their work relationships, and of course with teachers in school, with their relationships with colleagues, with the students, with the parents, with the administration. And so what I would like to do is ask each one of you, if you wouldn't mind writing in the chat box, this concept of what we call healthy boundaries. It's something that's a bit cultural as well. It's a conversation that has been ongoing in the field of sociology, psychology, in human relations since about the 1980s. And I just wanted you each to write in the chat box, what do you think this lecture could be about when we're talking about healthy boundaries? Just write in the chat box what your thoughts are. You know, what are you imagining this is going to be about?
There is a hand from Angeliki Moschona that she would like to reply, Susan.
Yes.
I would like to ask something back, if you don't mind. Actually, what is a boundary? What are we naming a boundary? Because in my mind, it's something healthy as it is, but I don't know if I'm like.
Well, I think what you can offer here is what you think it is. What has, you know, how do you define it? There's not really like a perfect definition, but it's kind of just to have an idea of what in your culture, you know, what is the conversation about? If you're coming from North America, the conversation might sound one way. If you're coming from Romania, it might sound a bit different just because of what different needs are in the cultures. If they're more individualistic cultures, collectivists, if they're more hierarchical, if they're more egalitarian. So here I see from work relationships between colleagues, also boss-employee dynamics, work hours. Thank you, Evangelos. Physical, for example, some cultures are more handsy and touchy. That's right. And then Tolga's talking about personal or private life. And of course, we're probably going to focus a bit more on our professional lives here, but it's something that, of course, has a big impact on our private life. Verbal as well. Healthy is flexible, to communicate in a respectful way in a psychologically safe environment. Thank you, Willie. Addressing problems directly, talking about your feelings and experiences is it honestly. Thank you, Christina. Artemisia, expressing boundaries via communication that make you feel comfortable in your everyday relationships. Whether it is about work life or personal life, knowing how to say no. Thank you, Tim. Relationship boundaries. And then how to keep balance in work and study. Yes, there are, it's aspects of all of these different things. It's, let's see here. If I share, we can maybe see a bit more clearly some of the thoughts that I have. Okay. So let me know if you can see.
Yeah, we will. Yes, we will be able to see, Susan.
Great. Okay. Great. That's taking a moment though. Right? Is it black?
Still black.
Okay. I don't know why. Okay, just takes a little bit. Still black, huh?
Correct.
So, of course, unresponsive. Oh my goodness. All right, let me stop sharing for a moment and just try that again. Why? I am so excited to come face to face, to do face-to-face work with all of you in Crete. And I hope that I'll be able to meet a lot of you, because working with these computers is always full of mystery. My goodness.
There is another answer as well from Michael Duran, that the work that you do or ask to do is aligned with your principles and values.
Yes.
Question, Susan.
Yes. Okay. I don't know why this is not loading. And
You can send it, the PDF or the PowerPoint
yeah.
by email, and I will handle it from my computer.
Okay. I'll try one more time. Okay. All righty.
Or you can restart the PowerPoint.
Exactly.
The
That's what I did.
application and restart.
That's what I did. Okay. So now this should be clear. So I see that you do know, you already are very familiar with this concept of boundaries. So perhaps what I can help with today is thinking about it in a more more concrete terms about your own lives and how you manage your boundaries. Because of course it's one thing to know a lot about what yours are.
It's
But
still black. It's still black, eh?
yes, I know. I can see that. And it's one thing to know a lot about what your boundaries, what the definition is. But then when we actually think about what our boundaries are, it's so interesting to realize that it's one of those things where it's much easier to talk about it, when we're talking about someone else, or to notice what happens with someone else's boundaries, than it is for us to notice what happens to ourselves. So, let me just, I signed out. I'm going to sign back in. And okay. And I was also wondering if this is something that that some of you students experience, if you tend to be a little surer of your boundaries when it comes to your personal lives, as opposed to when it comes to your like your work life or your school life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to also send a PDF to Costas in case there continues to be a problem. Is that okay, Costas?
Yes, if you send me the PDF, I can handle it from my computer.
I can try and do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do not, make it full size, because from the moment that you have it, on your screen,
Yes.
there is no issue. When you try with your computer to make it full size, probably your memory is very weak.
Exactly. Something happens there. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. How's that?
Yeah, we see it now.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So
Excellent.
when I was thinking, thank you so much for your patience. I have no idea why this was happening, probably from memory problems. So when I think about, I was thinking about different phrases that go with this, and maybe you could write in the chat box, which of these answers strikes you as the most appropriate? All right. So healthy boundaries mean not compromising your values for other people, no matter what. Anyone who crosses that line is probably toxic, all right? Or healthy boundaries mean explaining your values and sharing your reasons with others to make sure they understand and approve. Or healthy boundaries mean being aware of ours and others' boundaries in various contexts while taking responsibility for communicating ours in direct, respectful language to others. Which one sounds the right way for you?
They are already writing to you in the chat, Susan.
Yes, I see that. Okay. Oh my goodness. I'd say 3. Yes, yes. And it's interesting, thank you, because it's for a lot of people, this idea of we've gotten into this language of people being toxic, right? If anybody kind of crosses over that line, then it becomes something very, there's a lot of judgment that goes with it. It sometimes can be very difficult for people to discern between a behavior that another person is exhibiting that would be, it's simply because they don't realize, and other people are truly, trying to invade. And so hopefully today we'll be able to get some answers. Definitely, here is a nice definition for it. This idea that there are guidelines or rules or limits that a person creates to identify for him or herself what are reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for other people to behave around him or her, and how he or she will respond when someone steps outside those limits. So it's really built on a mix of beliefs and opinions and attitudes. It's our past experiences and our social learning. So it could be what is obviously, I am originally from the United States, but I have lived in Italy for 31 years. And so the concept of boundaries physical boundaries, boundaries in conversation, the boundaries that you would use in the workplace are quite different. And it's actually, a lot of my work is in intercultural counseling. And sometimes it's just trying to help people understand that people are not necessarily being rude, even though that's how you might receive it, but that there could be also other explanations behind what they're doing. And of course, these personal boundaries, they define us as individuals, very much having to do with our likes and dislikes and those distances that we have in allowing others to approach us. So I put some case studies, all right, just for fun. And we will see, we have a case study here of Anna, okay? And I'm imagining Anna to be the only woman in her research group, okay? And she notices that when she speaks during meetings, she's often interrupted or talked over by her colleagues. And over time, I mean, of course, in the beginning, she is not so sure what to do. She thinks, well, I'm sure that they will circle back and I'll be able to finish my thought. But it doesn't seem to happen. And she doesn't want to be rude. And she, thinks, well, maybe, there was something more urgent. But what happens is over time, her frustration grows. She starts to feel resentful. She starts to even wonder if she's being kind of discriminated against, she starts getting some very strong feelings and thoughts about this, but she's quite uncomfortable with what she perceives to be a direct conflict. And so she uses some sarcasm with her, coworkers, maybe after the meeting, saying something like, well, I'm so glad that I was able to finish my thought, or yeah, it's interesting to see how everyone else's thoughts are more important than mine. And she kind of places herself in a position where she's hoping that her colleagues will get the hint. What happens though also is that Anna goes home, and at home her mood is affected by this. And then she tends to maybe lash out at her partner a bit over small misunderstandings. And here we can see, without really, we have this kind of outside view, right? We can zoom out on Anna and see how this affects her, even though perhaps her partner doesn't necessarily realize all of the different things. I think Anna is somewhat unaware of, she's aware of her problem, but is not necessarily aware of how she could possibly solve it. And then, let's see. And then I came across a great quote that said, stop asking why they keep doing it and start asking why you keep allowing it. And this is, of course, a big part of boundaries, right? Very interesting thought here. What is Anna doing? There is a part of her that's trying to understand why they're doing it. And she's making an attempt. Aha, someone's going on an airplane. But in any case, it's not quite working. Now we've got Michael. George says, my mom always says, people will treat you the way you let them. Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Mom is a very wise woman. But the difficult thing is that mom doesn't always know how to teach us. How do we bridge the gap between perceiving a certain behavior in a certain way and being able to speak to it assertively, where you maintain the relationship and you actually might give the relationship an opportunity to evolve. That's the tricky part. Then we have Michael. Now, Michael, he tends to be an organized and reliable team member. He definitely has some perfectionist tendencies, a great sense of duty. He often catches up on work projects after work hours, and his colleagues depend on him more and more to resolve issues, organize workflow, finish tasks when they're behind and their deadlines. And it's just a natural thing because Michael is available, because Michael answers the emails immediately. He's just one of these people that, he's just very plugged into work. What's happening though is he's feeling increasing anxiety Patriarchy, there it is. And then, yes, Greek mom is a very wise woman, yes. And in Michael's case, what's happening is he's starting to have a some emotional and psychological reaction because he's feeling a lot of anxiety over all of this responsibility and resentment towards his colleagues, even though his colleagues perhaps are not very aware of what's going on inside of Michael. He suffers from insomnia. He doesn't have time to cultivate his hobbies. He loves to go climbing and he hasn't gone in several weeks. And he starts avoiding the staff room because it's just, he is withdrawing a bit, and he doesn't visualize messages that his friends send because that just makes him feel bad that he's not available. And it just all feels terribly exhausting. Okay. So here we are looking at Michael's life from the outside, and it's quite interesting for us to see. And then I was thinking about Kirsten. Now, Kirsten has a different situation. She feels welcomed in her new job. It's very exciting. Her team also likes to socialize outside of the office. And so she gets invited to lots of dinners or drinks, or sometimes even weekend excursions. And at first, Kirsten is thrilled. But over time, she notices that she's tired, not just physically, but also emotionally, from the constant relational adapting and processing, because it's different levels to these relationships. And then some personal stories are shared in these, these dinners or drinks. And that's great, but then it somehow can get a bit confusing for her then when she is also relating to people professionally. And then also there's some relationships that go beyond the professional sphere. This tends to influence the workday and the different dynamics. And Kirsten is finding it hard to focus. She's a bit tired, a little overtired, sometimes makes some mistakes, and that generates a lot of negative self-talk in her head, lots of self-criticism. But she probably needs more alone time. She needs more rest, but at the same time, she's afraid of seeming antisocial. And perhaps she's also noticing that certain work decisions are made even during these, social times, and she misses out. And so I was thinking maybe this is another wise Greek mother who said this. When you say yes to something, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. And this is very difficult for a lot of people. Sometimes we really do want to say yes. It's not just because we're trying to people please. Okay. Of course, there's a little bit of people pleasing, but sometimes it's also that we genuinely are interested in doing all of these things. And it's very, we're happy that we were asked to do something, but then we realize that we actually either don't have enough time, we don't have the energy, we don't have the tools. Okay. So sometimes the boundary has much more to do with our own inner conflict. And then we've got Mark. All right. So Mark is here, and Mark's team leader, Diana, tends to work in the evenings and on the weekends. Okay. So she's kind of like his boss. And so she sends emails on Friday afternoons requesting information and action. And there's an expectation that it be completed by Monday morning. Okay. She tends to be, to always have a lot of urgency. And she also uses chat messaging after hours, saying, sorry, just a quick question, kind of just, think in a kind of a casual way. Mark loves his work, but he finds these invasions on his family time to be disrespectful. And when Mark's baby was born, Diana avoided sending messages on the weekend, but now that the baby is a few months old, she has started again. And this time Mark has had it. He puts her on silent mode and he fires off an email complaint to human resources. But as he settles into bed later that evening, he wonders if he reacted too quickly. Okay. So this is giving us a little bit of food for thought. Let me see if I can move this out of the way. I can't move the chat out of the way. When we fail to set boundaries and hold others accountable, we feel used and mistreated. And this is why we sometimes attack who they are. The way we attack them could be far more hurtful than addressing this in a respectful manner. And this is by Brené Brown, a social scientist, author, and speaker who has a lot to say about these topics. Very interesting woman. And so, yeah, I mean, can you relate? Have you ever been in a situation like Anna's or Mark's or Michael's or Kirsten's? What kinds of reactions, what kinds of reactions do we see Anna, Michael, Mark, Kirsten having? How do they wind up? What happens when their needs and when their voices are not heard? I would like to, I'm gonna show you. I know I stopped with the big screen, but it's just because I want to move some things here. Okay, so we have all sorts of boundaries. And it really depends on what our situation is. So this is a great graph here that that you can find on positivepsychology.com. And it talks about these different kinds of boundaries. So there are time boundaries, how much time. This is a big topic that our Costas talks about a lot in time management, and a big thing about our time management, it's all interconnected, right? Sometimes we have difficulty managing our time because of a more emotional difficulty with boundaries, right? Having, that it's hard to say no, not wanting to disappoint people. Sometimes it might be a mental boundary. Perhaps we don't feel that comfortable sharing our thoughts or values or opinions. And when I talked about emotional, sometimes it's an emotional issue, meaning we don't want to disappoint people. And sometimes it's the opposite, that we don't want to let people in. And so we'll have a really strong boundary. There's things like material boundaries. So that could be about your stuff. It could be about your money, about, I don't know, your clothes. Maybe you have roommates and it's about, I bought the toilet paper and how come someone else is using it? Sometimes when we live together with roommates, there are all kinds of material boundaries that are unclear, and they cause a lot of conflict. The way money is spent, the way we're going to divide up expenses. And then we can have internal boundaries that have to do with the energy that's expended on ourselves and on others, that self-regulation. Some people need to recover from their social time. They feel that even though as much as they enjoy it, but they need time to recover. And they talk about that a lot with, more introverted people, that it can be extremely tiring. But believe me, most of us are a kind of a mixture of introvert and extrovert, right? And that when you are with people, many times you feel on, but you need the other time to be off. Conversational. And this has to do with what topics that you do and do not feel comfortable discussing. And once again, this is super interesting for us. Here we are in a very intercultural context, and you will be working in intercultural groups, and I'm sure you're going to find all kinds of interesting situations where your conversations are just a little different. It feels a little off, maybe, compared to what you would be used to in your culture. For example. And then, of course, there are the physical boundaries. Those physical boundaries. physical boundaries that are about, you know, how close we let people get. I work in Erasmus projects, and you can, I do an activity with the teachers sometimes where I will have teachers from countries like Spain or Greece, and then I will have teachers from Finland or maybe Estonia, and we'll play a little game where, you know, one person will stand on one side of the room, and I will say to, I don't know, maybe it's a Spanish teacher, and I'll say, okay, stand over there, and I'm going to walk towards you. And when I am close enough, you just put your hands up and stop me. Okay, you just put your hands up. That's close enough. And I do the same thing also with, for example, you know, these teachers, a teacher from Estonia, and it's very fun to see how different their comfort level is with what, you know, with that physical proximity. And there's no right way, there's no wrong way, but it's a kind of a dance. It's a whole communication dance in understanding what is appropriate in that particular culture, and keeping our minds open to the fact that we might feel discomfort, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the other person is aware that they are invading that space. And the same thing goes emotionally, mentally. And so what about you? All right. Setting these healthy boundaries requires a lot of self-awareness. And Anna, I was watching Anna's presentation, the recording of it, Anna Barata, and it was so interesting. And she was talking about, and I saw that the assignment that she gave you to reflect a lot on what, you know, to do, to kind of search for that self-reflection, make sure you make time for it, understand what your values are, understand things about your personality. And I would add to that it's obviously it's an ongoing process as long as we live. And we are constantly evolving. We are constantly gaining or losing resources. Resources can be people in our lives. Resources could be, it could even be something, you know, material. It could be time. We are constantly gaining or losing them. And that then puts us in a different position. And then, of course, we're constantly in different contexts. The way you all felt when you were in a high school classroom is different than the way you're feeling now in a university classroom. The way you feel in this virtual classroom is different than how we would feel if we were in the same room together. So I guess the whole point is that there is no definitive answer for your boundaries. And that's not what we're going to try to do today. But I would like to take this opportunity to go on a Mentimeter. And if you can use your phone, and if you can't use your phone, then I will then copy. I can copy it differently in the chat box, okay? And just a moment. Okay, I put it in the chat, and then I will reshare. So just let me know if you have a problem. I will assume that it's going all right, but if you have a problem, let me know. And I will then start. Okay. Okay. So I have a very odd question for you. So basically, my energy vampire, okay? In thinking about this, what situation or relationship is a big energy vampire for you in this period. And Mentimeter is anonymous, so this is if it's something that you feel is a bit too personal, that boundary is there of it being anonymous. And then I will show the answers in just a moment, give you some time.
Sorry, one question.
Yes.
Is it like right now or
Yes.
like, okay.
In this period, yes. Of course, you might have an energy vampire that you're not dealing with at this moment, right? And you might want to share that, because it's important to you. But I was kind of imagining in this period. Thank you. Okay, I see a few answers are rolling in, but I want to give you a few more minutes.
I give them a few more minutes in order to place their answers. So
Absolutely.
vampire means something that draws.
It's like
yeah,
sucking the energy out of you. Okay, because when we have an energy vampire, it means that perhaps we need to reflect on the boundary around that.
Okay, Artemisia, because there is a question. Could you please explain the meaning of vampire?
Yes, of course. Yes, thank you. So yes, Artemisia, it's like this, there are certain people or situations that leave us kind of without energy because they are so, either they ask so much of us, maybe it's a person or a situation where there are great demands made on us. And of course, we have very busy lives, but this is different. This is like after you have been in this context, you feel like you need to go to bed, that you don't have any energy. Okay, I'm going to, let's see some of your answers. We can start looking. Okay, I love it. Financial. So hard to get by weekly. Yes. Let me do this. Writing my thesis, schoolwork, the number of emails I am receiving and I have to answer, little sleep on weekends due to job, work projects, lectures, yes. My roommates who want to hang out all the time together. To keep balance between full-time work, studying at evenings for my BA in management and having time for my fiance. Wow. Yes, that's a lot. When people push me too hard and are not respectful of me, procrastination, not being appreciated, being abroad and acting actively social when going through a family problem. My dog also has something she wants to contribute. My energy vampire are my master's in science and my job, exam preparation, conversation with a friend I have been putting up, dealing with relationship issues and insecurities from past relationships, stress that I put on myself work-wise instead of plan and take it day by day. Narcissistic people who consume our energy. Yes, they do. Just going out of the house drains my energy daily because of anxiety. Working with chaotic, offensive people, trying to cope with all the new challenges in life and in academic life, with new challenges, new difficulties, lessons and assignments, new knowledge, moving too fast. Not something specially, but the full packet job family. Yes. Invitation to social events that I have no energy for. Sometimes I feel forced to accept them. Yes. Okay. So these are some good, interesting examples. And in some cases, it needs to be, yes, a time boundary. And sometimes it needs to be a bit of a relational boundary. You know, when you're talking about things like procrastinating, sometimes it's something that has more to do with an inner, you know, with negotiating with yourself about certain things. So very interesting. Thank you for these answers. That is, that really helps get the ball rolling here. So obviously there are different communication styles, and we know about these. This is something that we're familiar with. Let me see, let's see if I can make it a bit bigger for you, but I'm afraid of what would happen if I make it bigger. But obviously we have communication styles that are passive, passive-aggressive, aggressive, and assertive. Now, one thing that is very important is that these different styles, we will use all of them. There is no one that is 100% anything, nor should we be. There is no person, you know, meaning you can have a kind of assertive personality, but there are some times when you are going to communicate in a way that's a little more passive. You know, someone might say, so what movie should we see? And let's all decide. And you might say, it doesn't matter for me, whatever the majority wants is fine with me. And that would be that would be considered a kind of a passive answer. And it's perfectly in line with how you feel. A passive communicator is someone who kind of always answers like that, where that's, you know, they always have, I don't know, this great doubt in, I don't know, you tell me, no, whatever you think, it doesn't matter to me. I can wait. No, you go ahead. And what happens though is someone who is consistently a passive communicator, the communication is the outward manifestation of how they're really feeling about themselves on the inside. So sometimes with that really passive, no, you know, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. What would you do? I don't know what to do. You tell me, you go first. This person is very disconnected with what they actually want and need for many reasons. And they're not that happy like this. You know, what can happen over time is some of this frustration builds up, but they don't seem to be able to listen to it and legitimize it. So what might happen is they will either explode over something very small and everyone is shocked. Like, what happened to, you know, what happened to Jenny? Or the person more likely implodes. And so when we implode, what happens is you have a really strong emotional reaction that no one else sees. It's happening inside of you. Passive aggressive. Now, passive aggressive, we all know about passive aggressive communication. It's very prevalent. It's something that it's not quite, it's different than passive because the person senses that they are that somehow, you know, they have a different need, but they don't feel comfortable really stating what their need is. So what they'll do is maybe they'll act like something is fine in the moment, and then with a little, we say in Italian, a little arrow, you know, a little frecciatina, and they get you. And you kind of say, oh, wait, what was that? No, I was just joking. But they really weren't. That they were actually trying to help you understand something, but in a way that was not very functional to the relationship. And what happens in passive aggressive communication is that it's like you're accumulating all of this pressure inside of you, and then with that little passive aggressive, you're releasing a tiny bit of that pressure, so you feel a little bit better, but it does not help you or the relationship evolve. It doesn't really communicate what it is that you need. And then we've got aggressive communicators. Now, an aggressive communicator is someone who kind of just rolls right over the others. They take charge. They use maybe they have people, they keep them a bit off balance. They use a lot of you statements, they blow, we would say in English, they blow their top, and suddenly they're, saying all kinds of things that are really, let's say that they're things that perhaps aren't even what they really, really think, but they've exploded. And so what comes out of their mouths tends to be an exaggeration of what the real situation is. They might use a lot of words like you always, or never, or no one, or every single day. They use very absolutist language in that moment. And that is because they are feeling dysregulated and they feel that they are under attack and they need to make sure that they defend themselves. And you can imagine that in aggressive communication, all that happens in the relationship is that people either fear you, they don't trust you, they don't know if they can, they're not so sure, they have difficulty getting close to you. I see that there's a new message here. Yes. Yeah, well, it could be, depending. If you gave me like a concrete example, that would be, maybe I could help you with that. Like, me, it depends on what it is. Yeah, Alex, if you have a certain example, that would be useful. So is it me, like it's all about them, like I'm tired and I have this to do and I have that to do. It's maybe in that case, it's not necessarily aggressive, but it can be a kind of mix, because it could be a bit passive aggressive as well. And then we have assertive communication, which we all hear about and everybody says is, that's what we want. But like I said, there are times in our lives where we actually might need to have a little bit of aggressive communication, in the sense that if we are in danger, or we are, I'm talking about extreme situations where you really have to make sure that you are protecting yourself. But most of the time, it's more that the person feels triggered emotionally. And so then they spring into action. And then with our assertive communication, it's interesting to think about how we can assert those boundaries without necessarily cutting off the relationship, because that's what is so tricky. We can all find ways of saying, this is not okay for me, but how do we bridge the gap between what is not okay for me and what needs to be done here? This is the tricky part. Let's see if Alex added something. No, I mean, like when they put themselves as an example for everything and try to show that they're better in everything and try to slam you down. Well, yes, Alex, that sounds pretty aggressive. It's very dismissive. And think about it. When you are in relationship with someone who communicates that way, how much do you really feel comfortable around them? How much do you feel that the relationship can evolve? How much do you feel that you can truly be your authentic self with them? Because this is what the communication style is, a reflection of their inner world. And so it's very interesting to see, what is the effect that it has on the relationship. And because, if they can't even see you, you're not seen, you're not heard, because they are very full of their own, inner world. Is there any room for you? How much can they really connect with you? It's really, truly an art to be in relationship.
But Susan, can I ask you something?
Of course.
Our response to any message also depends on the other side as well. So if someone is aggressive, probably
Absolutely.
So it's a tango, eh? It takes two.
It does take, well, okay. It takes two. And you're right that some people will say, he started it.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Right? You know, and this is a big problem too. I think we are socialized to always be looking for whose fault it is, who started it. And, you know, Paul Václavic, when he teaches us that in relationship, there is no, he talks about the punctuation of a conversation. You know, if a husband and wife come to couples counseling and she says, I want him to talk more to me and share more about his life. And he says, all she does is nag me about wanting to share more about my life. And so, you know, who started it? Where does this begin? It's a conversation that's constantly in action. And so you are right that we tend to respond instinctively. And instead, in assertive communication, what we are aiming to do is to respond with the self-awareness that is not so easy to find in people. And so definitely the aim of assertiveness is to make sure that you're heard and treated fairly. And not only does assertiveness enhance, you know, your communication skills, strength, and decision making, but it really improves your self-esteem. It's like a kind of, it's something that you can practice, especially when there's a situation that has been on your mind. Sometimes we need to really think about what is the problem for us? What boundary of ours is getting crossed over? And think about what we need. And then think about, how can I communicate what I need in a way that's respecting me and respecting the other person? So it takes a great deal of self-awareness and self-regulation. It's not just, you know, a decision that you can make on the spot. It's like a muscle that we exercise. And of course, becoming more assertive, it definitely makes you better equipped to face conflict. And conflict is absolutely normal. Any relationship that we have is it's all relationships of individuals who have different experiences, different expectations, different needs, different triggers, all kinds of things. And you put us all together and we are going to be looking out at the same landscape, and we may see totally different things. That is part of life because we are individuals. So how do we get through that? Is through describing what it is that I see and being curious about, what do you see? This is the basis of conflict management, which you'll be learning a lot about in this course. So I like to think of boundaries. This is a metaphor that works for me as a garden. As a garden, and when I think about this garden, it's like, I actually, as we are all sitting here, I would like for each one of you to imagine, like, put your arms out in front of you as though you are kind of like your house. And then your arms are somehow showing your garden. Just imagine it, feel it, okay? And there you are at the doorway of your home, and you're looking out at your garden. And your garden is full of plants, trees. Maybe you have a nice brick oven where you make pizza. I don't know. Maybe you have a nice table and chairs with an umbrella that you can enjoy in the nicer weather. Perhaps you have chosen those things with great care. And maybe you even have a part of your garden that's locked, that's like secret, that nobody can get into, okay? And all of our gardens have a gate. So imagine that this is like the fence. Here I have like I was imagining something like this, okay? So you have a garden and you have a fence around the garden, but it's a fence that you can see over. It's not a wall, it's a fence. And this delimits, okay, where I end and the other person begins. Because you know what? Right outside of our garden, we have everyone else's garden. So if Costas and I were standing in front of each other right now, and I had my garden like that, and he has his, and we would maybe be touching our fingers, and he would have his gate and I would have mine. And what can happen with boundaries is what is in my garden. We think of it in terms of, well, for example, at work, or, in our personal relationships, it's what's inside my garden is what I have chosen, what I can do, what I know how to do, what is okay with me, what is possible for me, what I need. And on the other side, outside of this garden, might be what I cannot do, what I do not know how to do, what is not okay with me, and what is not possible in this setting. And of course, your garden can get bigger or smaller, have more plants, have different furniture, depending on the moment you're living and in the context that you're in. So perhaps you're going to have a certain garden when it comes to your family. And then you have another garden when it comes to your friends. And it's not always that your garden should be totally accessible, for example, to your family. We think of it as my family and they can go wherever they want. But sometimes that's actually the person that we need to set up a bit of a boundary with. Because what can happen is, and I have to stand up to do this to get the full effect, but you've got your boundary and your gate, and someone comes in and they kick the gate in, and suddenly you realize you come out into your garden and the person says, I moved some of the plants and I moved that furniture because it doesn't look good there. And I bought you a new one of these and I went over there and there was such a mess over there. And so I cleaned it up, and you are feeling invaded. But they're being so nice because they're helping you, right? They're helping. They just love you so much that they just want to do things for you. So why don't you appreciate it? Why don't you feel, why aren't you feeling warm and fuzzy? And this creates a lot of drama sometimes because the person with the garden feels a bit like, like they're not appreciative and like they're perhaps doing something wrong, when we know that we are having a problem with boundaries because we are feeling uncomfortable. We're feeling a bit anxious. We're feeling even a bit resentful. It's not right or wrong. Perhaps another person would love for their mom to come in and start moving around the plants and cleaning it up. But maybe for you, it is not the right thing to do. Okay. I see someone made a comment. Well, it's not so much opposite or different. It's just more to give you it's not that the other person it's not the other person. It's what is not in your garden at this moment. So it doesn't mean that it's another person's. It just means what is outside of this gate at this moment is what I cannot do, what I don't know how to do. An example could be that your boss asks you to take on the leadership of a new project, all right? And you are thrilled because you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity for me. But they are asking you to then start leading maybe a research team or something that has to do with something that you really don't feel that well prepared for. or they want you to, I don't know, they want you to actually move your family to a different location, or, you know, or to work remotely, or to do something. So it's just that it's understanding what is okay for you, what is possible for you, and what is not. It doesn't mean you're going to say no to the job, but it means that you're going to have a conversation with your boss, having thought very profoundly about where your discomfort is, what doesn't feel right, what feels like it gets you a little panicky. It does not mean that you will not find the resources to manage this, okay? But it's something that we need to be, and then feel overwhelmed, angry, and resentful. And that is not professional either. Let's see. Someone standing like a tree. Oh, Willie, that's a really good one. Yes. Yes, we can actually, I could probably post that in the notes, the standing like a tree. And if I kind of move on here, what is also, you know, sometimes in this gate, okay, we have these unwanted intrusions, and we have people who kind of invade the garden by being aggressive or needing more that you can give, thinking they know best. And sometimes when we enforce those boundaries, that person is not so happy. For some people, they're very happy because, okay, now it's clear to me why you reacted that way. But some people, they kind of liked, you know, invading this garden of yours because it worked out better for them. Maybe you did some of the work that they didn't have time to do, or perhaps it made them feel important. But there could be many reasons, but not everyone's going to like these boundaries. And, you know, when you're thinking about your professionalism, you know, and asking yourself in different moments, you know, what am I not? Going back to what Anna Barata was talking about, where she was saying, think about what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. This is sort of another way of talking about it. But sometimes it's like, what am I not? What can't I do? What don't I know how to do? What isn't okay for me when you enter this garden? What isn't possible in this garden? And it doesn't mean that it will always stay like that. Maybe having this conversation with yourself or with another person can actually spark some problem solving, brainstorming about, what do I need in order to be able to do this? If I go back to the Mentimeter for a moment, you probably still have the Mentimeter on your phone, correct? If you don't, let me know. But if I go back to this, wait a second. If I go back, and I move forward with it, which of my boundaries are most impacted by the situation that you described before? When you were talking about, you know, work, family, when you were talking about some of the relationships, which of your boundaries do you find to be the most impacted by this situation?
What do you mean internal?
Internal has more to do with our own inner conflict about something. You know, like I want to say yes, but I say yes, But then I realized I should have said no, because I say yes to too many things.
I think that the most safe way is like to say no to everything. And
Yes. That's right. That's what Warren Buffett says to do. He says the most successful people, they're successful because they say no to almost everything.
don't say this because you are ruining our confidence now.
I know. Well, I don't believe that. I think that no, I believe in a let me sleep on it. That's one of my favorites. Let me sleep on it. If you have the tendency to be a bit of to say yes to things because it touches you on some level emotionally, it's gratifying. It's an interesting project. It's something that, you feel recognized. There is nothing wrong with that. And there is nothing wrong with saying, thank you so much for thinking of me. And I am going to sleep on it. And I will stop by your office tomorrow morning at a time that's convenient for you, and we will discuss it. Those are some of the most loving words that you could say to yourself and to the other person. Absolutely.
I have to say also, this is a very nice reply. Let me sleep on it. But probably you can say this when someone is getting, if you are getting angry with someone, do not react at the same moment. You can say to yourself, let me sleep on it and I will react tomorrow. Okay?
So when you bring up a very interesting point. Okay, so I just wanted to see here that we have time and emotional are probably the biggest boundaries that are impacted. Yes, and also mental. Yes. In these situations right now that are causing you discomfort. Some things cannot be changed. At the same time, some aspect of it perhaps could be changed that would make us feel better. Oh, thank you so much, Willie. Thank you for the video. And I will, later on, I will also add that to the material from this talk. Thank you so much. So, let me go back over here. Sorry. Going back to where we were, when we're thinking about this garden, okay? The thing that is so, when we think about it in terms of a garden, is that we realize that it's not so, I don't know, that it doesn't need to be so cut and dried. And going back to what Kostas was talking about when he was saying that it's also a good thing when you're in a conflict, where you're having an argument with a person, to say, let me sleep on it. That also can work. It depends on the relationship. It depends if, for example, if that person feels abandoned, if it's in if it's in a relationship in a romantic partner, for example, that could be, it would be very important to specify that, I care. And because I care, I'm going to sleep on it. And we will talk about it in the morning. If you are able to have the presence of mind to make sure that you take your leave of absence from this conversation, but assuring the person that it's because you do not want to continue to be dysregulated, that you would like to preserve the relationship, and that you give them a time frame that we will talk about it tomorrow. People who are in intimate relationships, we tend to have very different ways of reacting to as opposed to professional situations. And for some people they feel abandoned, and some people feel completely overwhelmed in arguments. But you are right that a little bit of a timeout is always a good thing. And when, like I said, when we're thinking about professionally, it's even more important, because we maintain our foundation of being a reliable person, a person that you can count on, and a person who is sincere. Because when you say, thank you for thinking of me, I appreciate it, it sounds very interesting, and let me sleep on it, or I will think about it and we will talk about it on Thursday. And sometimes people don't like that answer because they also have a problem that they need solved and they wanted to pass this problem over to you. And perhaps you were the person that always said, okay, it's okay. Yeah, I'll figure it out. But then you realize that you have problems with tachycardia, that you have, intestinal troubles because, you're and you're imploding. We need to listen to this. The other person, is trying to get their needs satisfied, but that doesn't mean that you need to sacrifice yourself for that. But perhaps you need to think of it in a term, you have to think about it in a bit more of a, what's the word? You need to think of yourself in a little more give and take. And then there are things like, at the moment I do this, this is what happens. So there's also such a thing as like soft boundaries, and a person with soft boundaries kind of merges with another person's boundaries. Soft boundaries, they might find it difficult to identify their needs and values, and they confuse their voices with those of others. And this creates a lot of confusion over time, a lot of resentment. And then somebody has what they call spongy boundaries, spongy. And so a person with spongy boundaries, it's a bit of a combination of like the rigid and the soft. And so there's not as much, they call it contagion than soft boundaries, but more than those with rigid. So people with kind of spongy boundaries are unsure of what they should let in or keep out. And it can be hard for them to hear themselves or pinpoint what is creating discomfort for them. And they might not know exactly how to communicate it. Now, there's nothing wrong with having spongy boundaries. None of this is wrong. It's just more to bring awareness. This is all we're doing here, is that we reflect on ourselves. We realize that, wow, at work, I'm very assertive, and then I go home and I'm a mush, and how do I feel about being a mush? What's working for me? What isn't? Then we've got the rigid boundaries, okay? We all know about people like this, where a person with rigid boundaries that could be closed off or walled off, and no one can get very close physically or emotionally. They probably have very good reasons for this, okay? We need to respect that they probably have experiences in their lives that have led them to this. But it can be a very difficult thing for the person with rigid boundaries, because the only way that they can feel safe is by, having these very rigid boundaries. I find that the teachers that I work with, the more rigid their boundaries are about things, meaning things have to be done in a certain way, and they're not necessarily open up to new ideas. They're not necessarily open to different kinds of relationships within the school. I find that they are people that perhaps have become that way as a result of job stress, that it's been a kind of a progressive problem. And sometimes it's a coping mechanism to stay away from burnout. Sometimes it's just their personality, but sometimes it's become this. So rigid boundaries are there for a reason, but it's hard for that person because they really do feel like they're always under attack. And then, of course, there's flexible boundaries. And so it's kind of similar to spongy, but the person is choosing more. Spongy, the person isn't choosing as much. It's kind of, they're not sure what's theirs, what is the other person. But in flexible, it means that you can think about it, you can reflect on it, you know what is, you're much more conscious of what is okay for you, isn't, but you're curious about what the other person's garden about. So the person decides what to let in, and they're more resistant to like that emotional contagion and manipulation. It's difficult to take advantage of them, but at the same time, they're at ease in most relationships. You probably know someone like this. They're usually people who they communicate their needs very clearly, respectfully though, and they're curious about others. George asks, is it good to have different boundaries with different people at one job? Absolutely. No. if the reasons for this are because favoritism or something, okay, meaning if it's for very healthy reasons, like a certain person tends to constantly do all the work at the last minute and then dumps a lot of responsibilities on you at the last second, okay, that's a person where you're going to have a little bit of a different boundary. If there's a person instead who is quite let's say, organized with their work, they're quite respectful of your time boundaries and all that, then you don't need, you know what the beautiful thing about this garden is that we have a gate, all right? The gate, and it can be open or closed. The art is learning how to accompany this person to the other side of the gate when you feel that they have invaded, but still talking to them from the other side of the gate and saying, yes, I'm sorry, you were saying? And instead there are some people where you can have the gate open and they can wander in and you have no problem with that because you trust them. You know that they will be respectful of your plants, of your furniture. They're not going to move things. They will ask before they start, before they sit down. You just know that it's okay in their presence. And this is a wonderful quality. So let me get down to the last little bit that I wanted to do. I was thinking about Anna and Michael and Mark and Kirsten, okay? And maybe we can do something together now. I was thinking about Anna. Now, the first thing that Anna can do in her situation is define, and maybe she doesn't necessarily have to speak in this robotic way, okay? Maybe she just needs to write it out in order to get it straight in her head. But it's very important to define what the problem is if we want to be assertive speakers in somehow explaining what our boundaries are. And Anna might say something like, during meetings, it is common for others to interrupt or talk over the speaker. I have experienced this frequently. So she's defining the problem. She's not accusing one person in particular. She's recognizing that it is a habit. Okay, that's a bit of a habit that happens here. And she also does say that this is something that she's experienced. And please feel free to jump on the chat and tell me other possibilities of what Anna could say. Because this is just one possibility. And then Michael, remember Michael? He was the one that took on all of those extra tasks, right? And he was always working even at home and on the weekends. And but he was starting to feel taken advantage of and was feeling a bit anxious and insomniac and all that. And Michael might define his problem by saying, I have taken on extra tasks that are now interfering with my primary responsibilities to the team. He's not blaming anyone. He's not trying to justify anything, but he's saying this is the reality. Then we have Mark, who says, I'm dead. Mark is the one who has the newborn baby, remember? And his boss is always has something urgent. She writes, messages on Friday afternoon, hoping to have the answers by Monday, or she sends maybe a private chat on WhatsApp saying, so sorry, just one quick question. Okay. And the problem is that Mark at a certain point exploded and he really did not speak clearly to her. He just hinted, and it was sort of, he thought that she should just understand because he has a new baby. And then he fires off a complaint to human resources. So maybe Mark needs to define what his problem is. I am dedicated to my work and I'm stimulated by the motivating environment. I am currently adapting to parenthood, which takes a different kind of energy. So he's not asking for anyone to, do him any favors in particular. He is stating, though, what is his garden? Does this make sense? Yeah. And then Kirsten. And Kirsten said, Kirsten is the one who has all the colleagues that are super social and they meet for drinks and they're going out to dinner and they go away together. And Kirsten says, I enjoy both the kind of work and the friendly environment environment. My priority is to learn as much as possible about the job and streamline processes. So she's defining her garden. And then you don't think that Mark is in the wrong. The report should cite that. So George, my question to you is, what is Mark's relationship going to be with his boss after that? I mean, I'm not saying that Mark did the wrong thing, but I'm saying, did Mark do the best thing for himself and for his working environment? Has he spoken directly to her?
He should have probably clarified it beforehand, but I think the report should stay.
Okay. And so this is a very important thing to think about is, I mean, this is a huge problem in the workplace. You all know this, right? That this is an enormous, the perception of what it means to be a good worker and what it means to, I mean, and this I think is probably one of the biggest problems that we might find in the workplace is what that perception is. So then let me.
One thing about what is his name, George? Yes, the father.
George is the person who's commented in the chat.
I get
Mark.
Becoming
Yes, Mark.
Yeah. I can clarify that to the best of my knowledge, I'm not a father.
Okay. So yeah, in this example, I think if the question whether he should let her know before or not, I think he doesn't need to do it, but it's just more kind because you give the other person the opportunity to adjust their behavior. And then you can still follow up with more consequences. But if you just directly take it to an outside thing, you just rob them of the chance, and it can also strengthen the relationship.
That's right.
But make it more tense. Sorry. Yeah.
I agree with Pauline on this one, that it's more a question of the goal is what is going to enhance the relationship, and what is going to respect me and respect the other person. In this case, if Mark had already told her very clearly what was possible for him and what was not possible, and she deliberately invades his garden, then at that point, Mark, it would have been also very good for Mark to explicitly say this would be, if this is not respected, I will need to bring in a third party to help us manage this conflict. Absolutely. I mean, this takes a lot of emotional maturity, people. A lot.
If I may, though, I'd argue that it was mentioned that the boss didn't contact Mark for a couple of months after the baby was born. So the boss knows that they're stepping over the line.
Perhaps she just made her own decision saying, well, I didn't do it for 3 months. I mean, come on, the baby's 3 months old now. It's evident that there has been a gap in the communication.
Mm-hmm.
She is assuming something, and he is hoping that she will read his mind. And in that gap, in that space, this is where the majority of our problems occur. And so then I went on with Anna, only Anna, and now we don't really have enough time, but maybe it could be part of the assignment. I thought about what Anna could say. Anna is the one who gets talked over during meetings. Now, I'm sure that this is something, and this probably touches a lot of chords with people, because I don't think that it's just Anna that has this problem. But anyway, I was imagining that Anna then would need to communicate a bit about what she needs. Once again, Anna does not need to write out a script. She doesn't need to be a robot, but perhaps she needs to clarify what is going on in her garden with herself, so then she can speak to the others. And so perhaps she might say, when I am interrupted or talked over, I am not able to bring my full contribution. Our time is a precious resource, and these interruptions make communication more laborious, with many subsequent emails asking for clarification of issues that could be dealt with in our meeting. For this reason, when I have the floor, my priority is to finish my contribution and then take questions. This is very difficult. And this is also very cultural, because there are certain cultures where this happens all the time, just naturally, that people interrupt and talk over each other. We need to be very aware that working in international teams, intercultural teams, you're going to find very different reactions to the concept of interrupting. Is that right, Kostas?
Do you think that, so you are mentioning that to interrupt someone is cultural? I think
yes,
I think
it is.
It has to do with another soft skill, which are the listening skills. It's not only the presentations. I'm suffering from this. I used to interrupt people, and I'm still doing it, very often. I'm trying to control it, but it's like it has to do with the listening. Sometimes probably, the culture plays an important role because of the enthusiasm, or how, in the South, we express, our feelings and our enthusiasm in a more,
Thank you, Willie. Mm-hmm.
outgoing way.
Yes.
The North, they keep it,
It's true. Now, you are right. It is an overlap. Okay. Sometimes it's a gender problem. Sometimes there's a bit of a cultural, sometimes there's a microculture in a certain office where that's just the way they've always communicated and nobody's ever thought about it. And sometimes it's simply that like you said, it's an enthusiasm, and it's culturally acceptable to be like, oh my gosh, let me just, slip this in right here. And in other cultures, then they feel offended. So it's just something for us to think about, that it's not, there's no clear-cut way, but this is one way that Anna could respect herself and respect others. And then keeping it simple. So what is her request? I ask that if someone wants to add or ask something at that time, that they raise their hand or use a nonverbal gesture that we all agree on. This way, I know that they are waiting, and I will then make sure to give them the floor when I have finished. So she defines what is possible for her, what is okay for her, where she is respecting herself and others. And then there could be consequences, just like we were talking about. And she might say, if I do get talked over or interrupted, I will remind this person of my request and take back the floor. If this persists, we need to discuss this as a team to brainstorm other solutions. And I think that Anna could also add something about collaborating effectively is important to all of us. Although I am bringing up the issue, I believe it can be an essential step forward in better communication for all. And Anna is not angry, she's not hurt, she's not upset, but she is firm and clear over what is that boundary, what she needs, what she proposes, why she would propose it because of it's good for everyone, and what would be the consequence. And since we have to go now, I just wanted to give you some thoughts. There's a wonderful author. She's a psychotherapist and a relationship expert, Nedra Glover Tawwab. And if you're on Instagram and you want to follow her, she writes the most beautiful, she calls them Nedra nuggets, which means these teeny little bite-sized things. And these little nuggets are little, she's with great wisdom and simplicity. She helps us kind of understand about these boundaries. And she has lots of very simple responses that we can get used to using. Now, these are a bit more for our personal sphere, okay? I'm not comfortable with this. I've decided not to. That doesn't work for me. In a work environment, I was offering other kinds of language, right? Because we're going to change the register of our language based on where the boundary is. And so we were going to do this in breakout, but I can instead give it to you and thinking about, and you'll have these slides, and it would be great if you could think of ways that, well, what could, for example, choosing one, either Michael or Mark or Kirsten, how could they approach this? If we are Michael, who is, his boundary is a little bit with himself because he takes on too much, and he also has it with other people. And so perhaps we could write, what is the issue for them? What do they need and or challenged by? Just like following the same steps that I used with Anna, okay? And I will put that very clearly in the in the Moodle. And if you want, if the groups that you were put in by Costas, I mean, for me, you can even put your ideas together, but just to make it something where I'm not reading 100 of them, but I might be reading 25 of them, and you make a group effort in addition to a little assignment, a little quick thing that I'll have for you there. Any thoughts, any questions? I know we have to go now. And
I have one question.
Yes.
So what kind of boundaries we should have? Flexible, rigid, depends on the situation, depends on the other one. We should be like spongy. Like what is your opinion?
Well, okay. First of all, as a counselor, my question would be, what do you think? What works for you?
For me, I think that from the number of the people that I'm meeting, from the different cultures that I'm engaged, I think I should be flexible and rigid. Flexible. I will say flexible. This is like my situation right now. I think that I should be flexible. Depends on the person. Depends on the situation.
I agree with you. Obviously, there are times where we, for many reasons that are probably good reasons, we need to maybe, because of past experiences, we need to be a bit rigid. Okay. There's no one way that's 100% right. And what this whole conversation hopefully was about for all of you was just bringing more awareness. Flexible is often the thing that when we talk about win-win situations, right? Where I think about what is possible for me, what I need, what I can do, but I remain curious about the other person's need and experience. If that person has proven unworthy because they don't respect mine, then I might need to
cut.
I might need to. Okay, but that's a whole other aspect. Any other thoughts, guys? I'm so sorry. I did not have enough time to hear from you. You can always write to me with any questions.
You will have to work.
I'm sorry?
You will have to workshops in Hanya. So the people that they will come, they will have more time with you, no?
Of course. No, and you know what? It was a little bit that I didn't know how long the first part would take with you. And so then of course I didn't have my presentation working very well in the beginning. I'm sorry for that problem. And I don't know, you just let me know, write something in the chat box. Like, I don't know, did this add anything? Because you already knew a lot about this topic. I could see you were already thinking about it, which really makes me happy. Aren't we all flexible in different situations? Alex asks. Alex, my point is not so much that if we are all in a certain way. My question is, are we aware? Are we aware of what we're doing and why we do it and why we choose to do it? Each person probably has moments where they're flexible.
But can I ask you something on this, on your reply on this? So it's only if we are self-aware, or we should also demonstrate environmental awareness at the same time? Because not only us, it's like a combination of what's happening around us, because this will have an impact to us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I could talk about this topic all week in Chania, but I won't.
Yeah.
But I won't. Don't worry, kids.
We'll go out with
but when we see each other.
Self-awareness is very difficult. Very, because you have to look inside yourself. And sometimes you don't like what you see.
That's right, Anna. Sometimes we don't like it. And
yeah, and it's difficult to make the switch and ask for help. And so it's all of those items, when it involves emotions, self-awareness, actually reflecting on your own behavior and how it impacts others as well, not only you, but how it impacts others and how the other people around, how they behave also impacts on yourself, your expectations, the expectations towards others. This is really, as you said, Susan, 1 week wouldn't be enough.
No, I
love
personally
this.
have been working on these topics for about 30
Yes.
years.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, meaning, I
I've
guess
just
what I mean to say
started.
is with each important relationship,
Yeah.
you are experiencing yourself in a different
Yes.
way. But it does progress. And
Yes,
then
it
there was
does.
one last thing I wanted to say that was oh, I can't remember. It was something connected to what about Hania, that when we do see each other, we'll talk about mindset and like the growth mindset. And this is having a lot to do with boundaries, but of a different type, right? Having to do with the boundaries of our own mind, the way we see ourselves. And yeah. So if you have any questions at all or anything you want to share with me, my email, it's on the, I'll include it. I would be happy to hear from you. And thank you so much for your attention and for your feedback.
Thank you. Thank you
so
very much.
much.
Great.
I see very
Thank you
nice
so much.
comments on the meeting chat. So thank you very much, Susan. Thank you very
Really
much, all
great.
of you.
Thank you.
The recording
you.
will be uploaded into the Moodle as the lecture notes and the quizzes as well.
Yes. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.